Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Today, as Victor mentioned, I will be talking to you about my recent leadership experience and why you should try anything once. But before I get into that, I kind of want to talk to you about bullet. Now, what does bullet have to do with leadership? I'll get into that. For those that are not familiar with bullet, bullet is a fertilized, developing, predominantly duck egg embryo that is boiled or steamed and eaten from the shell. This is a common street food in the Philippines, and as I may have mentioned before, my husband is Filipino. And so this is also a common food that shows up at some of his family gatherings. Many, many times he would say, "When are you going to try bullet? Wouldn't you like to try bullet?" Well, the reason why I bring this up is because I feel this is exactly the same situation I have with bosses. When are you going to try this leadership position? I got this perfect leadership opportunity for you. And just like bullet, I'll tell you there's a time and a place for everything. Well, today I'm going to tell you about my recent experience with leading a BCM governance team. I'll tell you exactly what that means. And as part of this project, I was asked to collect 360 feedback and do a reflection of that. And at the end, I would like to end with why you should try anything once. So, BCM governance. What is BCM governance? I'll tell you, I work in biopharmaceutical, and I think maybe many companies over the world have acronyms that they love. BCM stands for Business Continuity Management. If you were to Google it, you'd come across a picture like this that shows that business continuity management is an umbrella that essentially encompasses the planning and preparation of an organization to maintain their business functions after a major event that could negatively impact the business. So think pandemic, think Mount Rainier blowing up. These are the risks that we identify and figure out and put plans in place to figure out how we can avoid the loss of data, the loss of assets, the loss of business and reputation. So a year ago, my boss approaches me and he says, "We have some of these things in place. We need somebody to manage a governance team for this." My first reaction was, "What is this continuity?" Well, my second reaction was a little bit more appropriate and said, "Sure, I'll try anything once." So I took the initiative to take this opportunity and I said, okay, what would I like to do with it? Well, for me, my personal goal was to make sure that I didn't look like Dilbert over here. I did not want our site to be what is a disaster recovery plan? Pretty much the same reaction that I had. I wanted to figure out how to build a governance team so that we could keep business continuity at the forefront of everybody's minds so that we could, just like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, inscribe in large friendly letters on the top of our business continuity plan, "Don't panic." Well, as I mentioned, part of this project was for me to get some 360 feedback from those that I worked with. For those that are not familiar with 360 feedback essentially means I'm asking for feedback from people that worked with me, worked for me, and acknowledged maybe the leadership, the work that was done. Now, if I were to sum up my performance in one word, I would say it was exemplary. After reviewing the 360 feedback, I would say generally it was all positive. And I think that this is something that we've learned as Toastmasters is to how to properly give feedback and evaluate others and give them something to improve on. Unfortunately, none of my evaluators were Toastmasters, and so there wasn't much for me to work with. And I think that if I took one thing out of that, it was I must be doing something right. So I took that opportunity to reflect on myself of what did I do right that everybody thought I did so great. Well, I believe that the successful implementation of the continuation of the governance team that I put in place was being able to leverage the skills that I had from my prior governance models. You may recall from a couple of speeches that I had recently around change management and project management, all of those skills are things that I have developed throughout my career that I continue to apply anywhere I go. So even though I didn't know anything about business continuity in advance, I knew everything about setting up governance teams, owning systems beforehand, and managing matrix teams. This is what I've been doing for several years now. So, of course, I had my kickoff meeting. I set the expectations. I had everybody buy into the same vision so that we could be successful. I used my smart sheets to document and visualize our target dates. I had our timelines. Everybody knew our statuses. And it was communicated appropriately, as you can see from one of the quotes, across different audiences. So the team knew what they were responsible for, their bosses knew what they were responsible for, our site leadership knew what we were doing and how we were on track, and even the global BCM team acknowledged the work that we were doing. But because of this, I'll tell you, business continuity is not new to my site, but it was new. The governance team portion was new to my site, and it was also new to some of our other cell therapy sites. So what also makes me think that this was an exemplary deployment of a governance team was that we essentially led by example. Pretty much packaging up that whole process allowed me to say, hey, this is the methodology that we're using to apply those global procedures and templates, and be able to not react so much, but be able to know where to go when something were to happen. And everybody liked what I put together. And so they copied and formed the same type of governance models at the other sites. So why try anything once? I go back to the bullet story. My husband said, you need to try this. You need to try this. I told him, yeah, sure. Maybe when we get to the Philippines. You take me to where they actually make this is actually street food, and I will try it. But I'll tell you, before we went to the Philippines, we had a couple steps to get there, right? We went to Santa Monica, we tried some deep fried crickets. I'll tell you, I'm from the desert, so having frog legs was a little bit exotic to me. And we tried some other exotic foods that kind of got us up to that level that would have me at least try bullet. Now, did I finish it? No, but at least I tried it. And it's the same thing with this leadership experience that I recently had. Did I know anything about business continuity? No. Do I like it? I'll tell you a year later, I'm still not sure that it's anything that I would want to lead, but can I do it? Yes. And the reason, and I go back to this quote from Stephen Covey, who says, leadership is a choice, not a position. For me, leading in any situation is about being willing to learn new things, being able to recognize how I can benefit from my past experiences and apply them to new situations. And this is essentially what we do for every project in Toastmasters Pathways. At the end of the project, at the beginning of the project, they have you reflect on the things you are going to learn. And at the end of the project, they have you reflect, is it the same? Did you improve? If you can learn to acknowledge that anything you do relates to everything you do, then you can succeed. What I also like about choosing to be a leader is being able to collaborate with different people. So having this experience and meeting with different functional areas for a different purpose than what I'm used to broadened those relationships. It allowed me to gain more perspective where others are coming from and foster the teamwork, which then increases accountability when marching towards that common goal, in this case, building a BCM governance team. But lastly, trying anything once is about being willing to put yourself out there. This opportunity allowed me to build my courage and confidence to try for other leadership roles. I hope that my reflection has made you stop to think about your next leadership opportunities that you might face, and that you too make the choice to try anything once.